Ooh, what's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarus.
And this is the Andor super secret, not secret at all, it's very public, live spoiler chat.
Yeah, I don't think we were hiding this from anybody, but maybe I'm wrong.
I was keeping it a big old secret, that's right.
We love
No one
secrets.
can know that we're live
Yeah.
doing our job.
Yeah, I feel like no one knowing that we're live kind of defeats the purpose of being live,
Yeah, probably.
you know. But that's just me.
We're getting, it says it looks poor, so if we're, can you guys let me know, is it poor? Is the quality of this stream poor?
Quality.
We're still getting used to this new set, so I just very curious what people think as we're doing the job.
Select.
But how you doing, chat? Welcome in. We're moving things to our new room for times when we want the audio quality to be a little bit better.
Hell yeah. The video quality is not as good, but we will work on that. This is one of our older cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we need to update some stuff, but house first.
The problem is that our cameras, these are like our roleplay relay cameras.
Yeah, and they are old. They don't even make these anymore.
You literally can't buy these anymore. And so if we want to upgrade them, we have to upgrade, well, I guess we could just upgrade this one, but I want to upgrade all four.
Well, we will have to upgrade all four because it'd look really weird if someone like on the set just had a shitty camera. No, we will have to figure that out. But we could do one first and then do the rest when we have a game planned for filming. But yeah.
We are here to talk about Andor. Maybe my favorite television show ever. A remarkable program. We have a couple of announcements before we get into that, though.
Oh.
One is that there was some interest thrown our way by the community that we, having now finished Andor, that we record our reaction to Rogue One. The first time we see Rogue One post having seen Andor. And I'm here to let you know that we did that last night. We recorded it. Patrons, you're going to get that in when this is over. I'm going to put that up on Patreon.
Yeah.
I need to make a thumbnail and then it'll go up. And then for the general public, it will be when Brandon gets to it. Unfortunately, Brandon has most of the weekend off because he's going to be here watching Lord of the Rings with us all day tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, we're doing our little marathon tomorrow. It's going to be fun.
But I will spoil it and say I cried multiple times.
Yeah. That shit hits hard. Blue, this is not book club, but thank you for becoming a Narg. I guess we'll have to change that.
These are the Nargs and those are the Radiants.
Okay, but I guess, yeah, if we
continue. The Wheel of Time
to...
happened here.
Sure, okay.
And moving forward, like any Wheel of Time content is going to be TV stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it'll be over here.
Other than I really want to do
Unless Brandon Sanderson writes a new Wheel of Time book.
He said he won't.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm like, that's not happening.
But I really enjoyed rewatching Rogue One last night. We might talk a little bit about that experience today, but mostly we'll leave that to the reaction video that is coming to the channel when Brandon gets it done. In other news, we started Murderbot yesterday.
Yeah, that was fun.
First 2 episodes of that are currently live on Patreon. Those will be going out public again when Brandon gets to them.
Yeah.
And that show is very good.
Yeah, that show slaps. Blue, we have seen Rogue One. We did a reaction to it having seen Andor. I feel like we're pretty clear at the beginning that we've seen it. But this is like, that we are rewatching it because we saw Andor. So it's like kind of a reaction, but it's not really... I don't know.
And the title of that video is going to be like, does watching Andor improve Rogue One? Or I'll make it a little bit shorter than that. But the idea of the video is, and a lot of the reaction is us talking about like, oh, this scene feels different now because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Particularly a lot of Melchi stuff felt different. Which obviously we're going to talk about Melchi today.
Yeah.
It was a different experience. It was the first time doing a reaction video where both of us hadn't seen the thing before.
Yeah.
Because we've done a couple where
both
one
of
of
us
us
had seen the thing before.
Both of us had seen it before.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of reaction videos over the years where one of us had seen it before. We did that with that one episode of Stranger Things that was kind of a debacle.
Yeah.
because people thought that I was lying about having seen it before because I just worded the beginning of the video weirdly. Glad, yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. We didn't continue that. But we will be also reacting to the Dungeons & Dragons 2000s movie, which I have seen and you haven't, because that was a charity goal that we hit.
Yeah, that'll be probably going up early June, because we still have to do 2 more movies this month. Bottoms, I actually, let's check the Patreon poll live right now. I think Bottoms won.
We can check the Patreon poll live. Let's fucking go.
I think Bottoms won the first poll. We're going to do another poll.
Yeah, we owe you a second movie.
Just haven't figured out what that poll's going to be yet. Hold up. Just pulling up Patreon now. Thank you to everyone who is on the Patreon. We're currently at 779 paid patrons and 2,794 free patrons.
Oh, because, right, you can follow, like, a Patreon page that if you're like, I would like to subscribe at some point, it's really easy because it's right there.
But yeah.
So you can follow the Patreon for free if you like. Why not?
I feel like I've had some friends who have, like, significantly... Yeah, Bottoms got 51% of the vote. So we'll definitely be watching Bottoms. I've had some friends post their Patrons, and they have significantly more, like, viewership than we do. But our Patreon's bigger, and I'm like...
Y'all, our community shows up. That's why we love you.
Blue didn't even know there was a poll up. Blue, it's because I post too much on Patreon.
That Patreon is bumping.
It's just, it's too many individual posts. Even with me condensing the double episodes of anime to one post, because I used to do those as doubles. So there would be days where I'd post like 8 posts on Patreon. Because it would be 2 episodes of...
horrific. Yeah, no. Terrible.
Father Drewsome says, Reefer Madness, the movie musical. I don't know that we can do
musicals.
A musical. But
we, like, for us to put that on YouTube, so much of it would be cut out, and then, like, what's the point?
Yeah. No, I agree with that. It would be tough.
Yeah, it'd be good really for patrons, I guess, because that doesn't matter, but in terms of, like, getting a public video out of it, that's really tough.
But anyway, when we announced that we were going to be splitting the channel into different memberships on different platforms, we were about like 730 patrons. And so we've gained like 50 patrons since that.
Yeah, because we were like, hey guys, technically it's cheaper if you use Patreon. And Patreon takes the least cut, which is nice.
Yeah, we only lose 8% to Patreon.
Yeah,
plus 3% to payment processors.
Right, yes. Whereas YouTube, we lose 20? 30,
so,
20, yeah.
Just start this video. I want to say everyone to join the Patreon. It means a lot. We're going to hopefully have more there in the future. You know what I mean? Like, we're only doing more and more. But I really am just grateful to everyone who supports us.
Yeah,
you really don't need to, and you do, and that's crazy to me. And so thank you.
We will be launching a new show over the summer as well. And there will be a Patreon element to that as well. So yeah, more us just talking.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
From probably these chairs.
Probably from right here.
And these new chairs, they're very comfy.
Yeah, at least for the next 6 months, you know.
No, I think the chairs will stay.
No. The chairs.
The house will change.
Yeah. The chairs are great. Chairs are great. We bought these to last. These are long-term investment chairs. We like them.
So, Clarus, we have now done an introduction. It was longer than it probably should have been. But
Always.
That's the Nerdy Nightly way.
Yeah.
We have seen 24 episodes of Andor. How do you feel about it? And a Rogue One. How do you feel about it?
Dude, we have seen 23 episodes of Andor.
What?
If you include Rogue One, I mean.
That's taking away an episode. That's not how math works.
25. Never mind. I thought you said 22. Don't worry about it. I always forget how many episodes of Andor there are because it only comes out over the course of a month.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that always fucks me up. I'm like, what do you mean there's 24 episodes of Andor?
You also, and this is a little peek behind the curtain on our production strategy, once you're done reacting, you never engage with anything again. Like, you might watch the content, but, like, you do the reaction with me, and then I process it. I do all the uploading to Brandon, downloading it, uploading it to YouTube.
Yeah.
I do all the Patreon stuff. I make the thumbnails. And so in terms of, like, episode numbers, the only time you might... I also run the recording when we do it. So the only time you would, like, interact with the number of the episode that we're on is when I say it in the intro.
Yeah, correct.
Like, you kind of just... I'm like, okay, recording time, and you're like, cool.
Yeah.
What are we watching?
Pretty much. Yeah. That's about how it works. Yeah.
And so you being like, I don't remember that there's 12. I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
But whereas I'm like making thumbnails and fucking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have no idea what's going on at any given time.
Before anyone thinks that that's me calling you out for not pulling your weight, you do a bunch of other stuff in the company. Like, this is not me saying that.
No, I know.
That workflow is my workflow because you have workflows that I have. I have no idea. I've not touched a tax form in years.
You're welcome.
And I'm grateful.
I'm like, just give me the receipts.
Now we are being audited, so it might be your fault, but like.
Well, I don't know if the audit would be my fault, but if anything bad happens because of the audit, that would be my fault, yes.
It would be, yeah. If anything goes wrong.
If anything goes wrong, it is 100% my fault.
No, it's that guy who did our taxes in 2021. I think he fucked up.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. Anyways.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm not like getting on your case about not doing enough. You do so much.
I know. Andor. Okay, I have a question for chat. Did anybody else, because we did this actually, rewatch season 1 right before season 2 came out? Because it was a chunk of time between seasons, you know?
We only rewatched
the last half.
No, we watched the end of Aldani to watch Nemec's death, and then.
So we watched the last 7 episodes?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That checks out.
Yeah, I was like, I know we don't want to watch. I didn't really have much interest in watching the first 3 again. I felt like I had a good memory of that.
Yeah. And the first 3 were not our favorite episodes anyways. You know, when those first 3 dropped, we were like, oh, this is pretty good.
Although in hindsight, I enjoyed them. But I have probably seen those 3 episodes 4 times now.
When?
Just in throwing it on sometimes, or like not recently, but like, you know, back when I think I edited Andor. So like back then, like
season 1.
Yeah,
that might be pre-Brandon. Shout out to our editor Brandon, because we couldn't do any of this shit without him.
So I think that I might have been doing all the editing back then. I just remember watching them a bunch back when it first came out. Mm-hmm. So we rewatched season 1, and I think that what stands out a lot about season 1 in hindsight is Andor sort of exists in these 2 different arcs, right? Mm-hmm. Season 1 is Cassian finding his way to commitment to the rebellion.
Yeah.
And then season 2 is the most important moments of his commitment to the rebellion.
Yeah.
And I think that I just saw a criticism of the show by the Escape the Pod, the hack guy and his friend. They're great. They have a great podcast. I should know their names. We've met them in person at LA Comic-Con. Their podcast is great. But hack guy was talking about how he felt like season 2 wasn't as good as season 1 because season 1 was very patient. And I kind of understand where he's coming from.
Right, because this was originally going to be like a lot more episodes.
Yes, but also there's an element of, this is full spoilers, by the way.
Full spoilers for Andor and Rogue One and probably other Star Wars properties if they relate to it. So, yeah. Blue, you should go watch the show.
You should go watch the show. There's an element of season 2 in, I think it's episode 8, where there's the line like, oppression moves faster than our ability to understand it. Or something like that. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. And in my opinion, once Cassian was fully committed to the cause, the series had to portray that speed a little bit. And I think that we talked about this during the reactions, that if the show was 5 seasons, right, and there were just 3 seasons, and there was just a season of Gorman, I think that I don't know that it would hit as hard.
Yeah, I think people would check out. I think it'd be tough to watch. It would be a lot.
And I think there's almost an element of this show moving as quickly as it does in season 2, where it is, Cass is committed.
Yeah.
Cass is 100% in. The show doesn't need to have anybody waffling. And season 2 doesn't do what a lot of television shows do, which is like, well, am I committed?
Yeah.
They kick that. It's, the question of, am I committed to Luthen is very much a part of the show.
Oh, God, yeah.
But the question of like, well, do I want to be a rep? No.
Yeah.
There's a little bit with Bix, but that is more, Bix kind of solves that for us. And so I almost think that like there is a power in the show being 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Can I bring up a second point about the 5-season thing?
Sure.
That is political.
Yeah.
let's talk politics for a second here.
We never do that.
Considering the current political state of the United States of America, and the sentiment of the people in charge, let's say, do you think that we would get 3 more seasons of a anti-imperialist, anti-fascism show over the course of the next 6 years, a season every 2 years? Will political art be legal in the United States in 6 months? Is a question that, like, I'm legitimately wondering about. And, like, did Andor sneak in under the wire? Just a little bit. You know what I mean?
I mean, maybe. I want to be clear. I have not heard any rumors of this being the case, of projects being shut down by the U.S. government or anything like that. Like, that's... You don't remember 9 days ago, which feels like a year and a half ago, when Donald Trump said that we were going to make Hollywood great again and we were going to fix the Hollywood problem? Look, he likes to have a shiny new toy every day.
100%,
and
yeah.
On that day, that was the favorite toy. Was, oh, I watched a movie and right, Hollywood exists. We should do something with Hollywood. I don't think that there's anything that is going to happen there, like, genuinely. It was definitely concerning because the way that he talked about it would completely destroy the entire industry.
Well, let's be clear. The industry is destroyed. Like, the entertainment industry in the United States is fundamentally destroyed.
I mean, yeah, things are bad.
And if you don't know that it's destroyed, it's just because you don't work in it. Like, the American entertainment industry is currently dead.
Yeah.
It could get revived, but currently it is deceased.
Yeah. Look,
nobody's working right now.
If you had asked me last year if that was a possibility, I would say no fucking way.
Yeah.
But it is the year of our Lord 2025, and I think anything is on the table. So yeah, maybe Andor happened for a reason, and it all played out the way that it was supposed to.
Brittany Alina says, if nothing else, it filmed all over the world, and now they're talking about messing with stuff filming outside America. I understand that, like, here I am not trying to be mean when I say this, and I want to be clear about that. But if you think that the modern entertainment landscape can be made 100% in the United States of America, you don't understand the industry at all. And yeah. I'm not saying that to be mean or to be dismissive, but it just is, like, go watch.
That's why what Trump said is, like, I'm like, it was a shiny new toy, and I really don't think that there's anything to it.
And I hope you're right. You know what I mean? Like,
it's
something that, like,
too.
We can put a pin in it in 6 months. We'll see what kind of art we're allowed to make. But they're trying to ban, like, smut books in Ohio in a way that would make it almost illegal to publish smut books in the United States of America.
Right.
And, like, I understand that smut and Star Wars are not the same thing, but this is a series where there was a sexual assault scene.
Yep.
Right? In season 2. And so, when we start talking about the burning of books and the banning of art and these things, I only bring it up because there's an element of it that I'm like, Andor might have come out just in time to be able to come out in America. And that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a wild world out there. I am incredibly grateful that we got Andor when we did and how we did. Because, yeah, you're right. I don't know what the world is going to look like in 6 months. And I don't know what it means to be a Canadian through all of that either. So
I don't know either. It's going to be very interesting.
We're going to find out. Yeah. We don't really have a choice in the matter. We're gonna see what happens.
Chris Buchanan says, what are your thoughts about the potential of taxing foreign media having a major effect on studios making overseas content? I know we said we're here to talk about Andor, but just because I'm very interested in this, one of the things you have to understand is that the cost of producing in the United States is so high that there isn't a way under the current streaming model to make enough money without international tax breaks. It's why if you go see a movie that was filmed in Australia, there's still the Ontario logo because they did some part of the production in Ontario so that they could get a tax break from Ontario and from Australia and from Quebec and from Georgia. And this movie that was filmed in like 9 different places, even though the movie only has 3 locations, it collected tax breaks from all of those places in order to be able to be somewhat profitable, maybe, for a streamer in the modern landscape.
Yeah.
There is no system right now where anyone is making enough money off of entertainment to justify the budgets of this entertainment without tax breaks coming from multiple locations. And so if Trump wants to reel media back into the United States under the current streaming model, he's basically just killing media.
Yeah.
Like the only things you're going to get are going to be indies and low budgets with no marketing budget. And so no one's going to see anything. It is a massive problem.
Yeah.
And that is just a problem of the economics of the current filming industry.
Yeah.
It's why things film in so many places. It is cheaper for the film long term to fly the crew to 7 different countries and collect a tax break from each of those countries than it is to just sit in one town and film a movie.
Yep.
If your movie costs millions and millions of dollars, right? You kind of need that. You also, if you want a Chinese release, you kind of have to film with a Chinese star or in China or have some element that's like pro-Chinese party and, not have certain kinds of magic that the Chinese government is against.
Sure.
That's just the reality of it,
right?
right?
No, 100%.
And so there is this element of the tax break element of the modern filming industry is so deeply complicated and it's so broken, but it is the only way to survive modern wages in film and TV production.
Yeah.
And because there's no ad revenue. And the ad revenue that you do get online is so much less than the ad revenue than the ad revenue you used to get on TV.
Yeah.
And it's just a huge problem. Anyway, let's get back to Andor. I could do a 3-hour podcast on the state of the modern entertainment industry, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Maybe
we're here to talk
we
about Andor.
will sometime this summer.
Maybe we will.
Yeah, maybe we will.
Yeah. Star Wars, Andor. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
I should have brought it up. I do feel like
it is relevant.
Yeah.
Right. It is 100% relevant because Andor is about what it means to live under the oppressive thumb of a fascist regime and how to fight back.
Well, but also it's about what do you do when the regime is willing to lie about everything. Right? And it is so much about hunting truth from the government.
Yeah.
And, the show is so deeply political. And it is just so insane how timed out that the politics are of the show, given that it was written 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Tony Gilroy
has like a prescient. Fucking Palantir somewhere hidden in his apartment. Yeah. I don't know how he predicted this. So crazy. Mm-hmm. It's actually connected to the ones that the writers on The Simpsons use. Yeah. There's several of them.
Well, The Simpsons, they keep predicting the future. And they said that the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup. And so they better win tomorrow.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't watch The Simpsons. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Raph says it was a history show. It was a history show. It was like an amalgamation of the modern far-right movements into one history show that just happens to be very prescient to the far-right movement that is, currently, not just America. I want to be really clear. Like, there are far-right movements that are growing across the globe right now.
Yeah.
And that's just a reality of the world right now.
Yeah.
There is a nationalist swing that is the logical extension of a globalist movement and a ton of immigration for decades that leads to people feeling like things are being taken away from them by people they don't know. And so they go the other way. And it's just sort of this like pendulum of life that has been going on for probably all of existence, right?
Yeah.
And, how we interact with that is going to be the defining story of our current moment. Until climate change becomes the defining story of our current moment.
Until we all boil alive. It's going to be great.
Ada says maybe Tony Gilroy has a TARDIS from Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe.
I would believe anything at this point.
So let's talk season 1 for a minute here before we get into season 2. Season 1 opens with Ferrix, a brick and mortar, literal like town of bricks, a town of bricks where brick runs so deeply in their blood that their blood becomes bricks when they die.
Yeah.
And it's
hardcore.
They bake their ashes into the city they live in, which is just so like such a beautiful sentiment.
Yeah. No, especially because you're helping to create something and, you know, somehow are able to provide value after you pass, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's very cool.
And we meet a young Cassian Andor, a little rebel, not yet a rebel.
No, but he does commit murder.
But he's rebellious in that he's working a little bit outside the system because his stepfather, who found him on a planet, was killed by the Empire in front of him.
Yeah.
For trying to stop a fight. And this show never gets easier than that.
Nope. It starts dark and it only goes darker.
And so in a sad way, Cassian brings the ire of the Empire home in a twisted path in season 1. He really it's like a series of unfortunate events that are primarily not his fault.
Yeah.
You know, when he gets picked up and taken in Arcana, he's literally doing nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He just happens to be on the beach when those guys run by. Aldhani is a little bit more his fault, but he's not really given a lot of choice on that mission. And then at the end of the season, what's he supposed to do? Bix is in danger. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing that Andor season 1 set up kind of was Cassian had a sister.
Yeah.
And I've definitely seen a lot of talk online about people wishing that storyline had gone somewhere. Do you feel similarly?
No.
Okay.
No,
Me too.
The idea in the flashback is that Cassian's sister is dead, right? Like, that Cassian, because Marva and his adoptive father, they arrive and they find Cass in this destroyed ship, and they have a limited window because the Empire's going to come and check on what the fuck. I don't even think it's necessarily the Empire, right? It's a weird. The timeline of that is a little bit complicated.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, like, you have to come with us now or you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, they're not under the impression that, like, things are fine here, but we're going to kidnap you.
Yeah.
Which is why the kidnapping, there was, when season 1 came out, there was the whole narrative that they kidnapped Kaz and that they had, like, stolen a child from this other culture. And I understand the idea of that because there are so much Western media that does that.
Yeah.
But there's this huge gulf between going into like a village and stealing a child and showing up in a place that's about to be exploded and being like, hey, child, we don't want you to die and we're going to do our best to take care of you when everything, like the planet that you're on is dead. And I thought there was such an unfair narrative of people trying to insert a political, like, anti-international adoption, which admittedly I'm not a fan of, right? Like, in the real world. But this was not a case of them, like, adopting Cass.
No, it's literally like, hey, you're either going to stay here and die, or we can take you with us and give you a life.
But in that plotline, I never needed her to have survived.
No, and I think that I think that it is more realistic, honestly, that there isn't resolution for everybody. Shit happens to people. People die. Sometimes you never find out the whole truth. Yeah. Regardless of what the subject is, but sometimes you just never know what happens.
But in this case, it's not even that he doesn't know what happened. He's hoping it didn't happen. He's hoping what everyone thinks happened didn't. Yeah. And that's the difference, right?
And there was no, like, evidence for that. And so when people were like, well, why didn't they bring the sister back? I was like, why would they? That would, honestly, to me, I think that would feel a little too, well, we have to touch on everything from season 1. I don't think it's necessary, honestly. What happened to his sister is tragic, and the fact that, like, he is not able to come to terms with that is tragic, but it's very real.
Yeah, and he's never going to come to terms with that. Fred74 said, didn't Cass look for her in season 1 in that bar when he killed those 2 officers? Something led him to that possibility. There was word that a female from his planet was working in that bar, right? And so Cass was hoping that it was going to be his sister.
Yeah.
Like, but the only evidence that I remember Cass having was that it was a woman who people thought was from the planet he was from.
Yeah.
And so he was like, it's got to be my sister. Because he was keeping the hope that she was alive. And that's awesome, right? Like, that's good writing, that he doesn't let go of that. So much so that in season 2, Marva has to be like, hey, like, you're still carrying this?
Yeah.
She's dead.
Yeah.
Or not season 2, at the end of season 1.
Yeah. Because she's dead.
Or does was that a message Marva sent in season 2? Now I think I've got that wrong.
A message? No.
I don't
No, I think that was in season 1.
I don't have any problem with Marva or with her being dead, because that's just life, and the show told us, like, if we stay here, you're all gonna die. We can't save your sister.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't leave that scene being like, she probably lived.
She's alive though, right? You know what I mean?
These adults are faking how concerned they are that everyone here is about to die.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have felt a little bit off to me. I just wanted to bring...
Mid-season 1, thank you.
I wanted to bring that up because it was something that I had seen online, and I wondered if there was anyone in chat who felt like maybe they didn't get enough out of that storyline, or if you felt if you felt that way. But I don't. Again, I don't need every single thing to be revisited and tied off, and sometimes shit just happens.
So then that's the first arc. Cass gets some people off.
Giggity.
or he leaves with Luthen. And at this point we've met Deidre, who's obsessed with her Star Path units. We've met Cyril Karn, who is just... I want to address the Cyril of it all, because we talked a lot in season 2 about his redemption, and there are a lot of comments in that Gorman arc responding to how we were talking about Cyril needing to be redeemed, and about how Cyril didn't need to be redeemed. Cyril never really did anything wrong from his perspective, because his goal was to do right by the empire that he views as right, and that he didn't really kill people. Like, he shot at a couple of people in season 1, but Cyril doesn't... I don't think Cyril ever kills anybody on screen, right?
No.
And Cyril's dedication to the cause isn't necessarily evil. And
right.
I understand the thinking of that, and I get it, but I want to push back on the fact that I think that sometimes you can find out that you need redemption for something that you didn't intend to do.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of times in life where, and I think that Cyril would have had this emotional moment had he lived past, Gorman. After he found out that Gorman was what it was.
Yeah.
I think that Cyril would have the experience of taking responsibility for not knowing and needing to be redeemed in the eyes of the people that he harmed, even though he did not intend to harm them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't think that you have to be explicitly evil to discover that you've done something wrong and look for redemption for your actions that you meant the best with, but you were used and you ended up causing harm to other people, right?
Yeah.
And I do think that because I fucked up in ways that I didn't know at the moment I was fucking up.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later that someone clued me in that I had hurt them.
Mm-hmm.
And I still sought redemption from them. I still sought to make that right, even though my initial wrong hadn't been this thing that I had enacted upon them out of ill will.
Yeah.
And so I think that viewing redemption is only for actions that you take explicitly to harm people is a very narrow view of what redemption can be for people.
Yeah. It's why, if you accidentally hit someone with your car, you have to stay at the scene of the crime. You're not just excused for doing something accidentally when you cause harm to another person. Yeah, Cyril is probably one of the most interesting and complicated characters through the entire show.
Yeah.
Especially in his final moments and what they mean. obviously we're jumping way ahead to season 2, but he really is unable to deal with the truths that he has discovered that day, right?
100%. Yeah.
Instead of making the choice to maybe help save some people, right? Or like,
I don't think that's fair. What was he gonna do?
I just mean
save. No one was getting saved.
I just mean instead of running, right? Instead of like moving along, instead of like
he doesn't
going
run,
back. I just mean he decides that what he's going to do in this moment is attack Andor, right? They're like you are in the middle of a massacre, and his first choice is to commit more violence.
I look, there's some validity to that, but at the same time, I am not going to judge anyone who finds himself in the middle of a genuine like massacre, a genocide of people, and not know what to do. Like I don't think it's fair to be like he should have chosen to like save people.
No. It's not that knowing what to do. It's that he decides to incite more violence, right? Like he did not have to attack Andor, but his impulse was to commit violent acts against a man that he believes deserves it.
But he also believes is responsible for this.
He has no idea that is that he cannot possibly know that and has no evidence for it.
But he believes that he was responsible for the same situation on Ferrix. Cyril, despite the fact that Cyril feels used on Gorman, Cyril is still under the impression that Andor caused.
He thinks that Andor murdered 2 cops, right? Not that Andor incited like violent revolution.
Sure, it was Andor's mom, and Andor happened to be there. Like. It was Andor's mom and Andor's best friend who incited revolution. I think that and Andor was there and Cyril was looking for him. Like it's not like.
Did they actually ever find out if Andor was there for sure? Because he gets away, right? He gets on a ship and he leaves. I don't actually know if they ever. If Cyril or Daedra ever has confirmation that Andor is there. They follow his
does
trail.
Anyone find him? Yeah, that's interesting.
Do they ever see his face? Do they ever actually know if he was on the planet?
But I don't remember.
I don't think that they did.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's still it's still his mom.
Sure.
And Brasso.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Sure. I just think it is interesting and complicated and very human. Like I said, I started this with Cyril is one of the most complicated characters. His choice in the middle of what is happening on Gorman is to attack Cassian, right?
Yeah.
It's human. Like I think that Cyril is written so well because of it, right? Like this isn't like a criticism. I mean, it's a criticism of like I don't think he's a great person.
Yeah.
I don't think he's evil, right? Again, which is what makes it so complicated and the writing of it so good.
Wildly Coyote says Cassian is the cause of all the chaos in Cyril's mind, which is why the like who are you is so crazy.
I know.
Right? Like
he's like, who are you? And Cyril's like, what do you mean you don't know who I am? You have consumed my life for the last how many years? Like
Which is why I also don't blame Cyril like for how he was reacting during the Gorman massacre. I really don't. I can't imagine being in a war zone. Like, I can't imagine being in a war zone. The closest I can come to is that there was a situation in Times Square years ago where a driver drove up onto a curb and hit 20 people.
Yeah.
And then got out of his car and was yelling some just like terroristic kind of things. And my ex and I, we were together at the time, and we were leaving the H&M there. We were walking towards this, and we had paused in the door of the H&M to talk about something, and then had turned, and like we hadn't paused there. I always think about the like fact that if I hadn't paused in that doorway and we'd just been walking, we might have been right in the path. It's one of those weird coincidences. And we saw all of these people bleeding on the ground, right? Moments after they'd been hit by this car. There were swarms of police running in every direction. Lights were going crazy. It was like Times Square at the most insane I've ever seen it because of the cop presence. And there was nothing we could do to help, right?
Yeah.
It's Times Square. Police got there like as fast as anything could happen. There was no way I was going to interact with the situation. And we didn't know what to do. So we walked to Westway Diner and we got pancakes. And it wasn't out of callousness, and it wasn't because we didn't care. It was that we were like, there's no way to make this better. There's no way for us to interact with this moment to make anyone else's lives better. So let's go soothe ourselves and get away from and get out of the way, so that we're not making it worse. And we sat at Westway Diner eating pancakes for like 4 hours watching the news on the TV they have there, because it was so shocking.
Yeah.
Like it was something I had never expected to experience in my life. And I think about that sometimes, where I'm like, I could have done what? Like any guilt I might have about going to getting pancakes while people were hurt, I'm not a trained medical professional. You know what I mean? And I was handling it okay. My girlfriend had just moved to New York, and she came from Texas, where she was like, nothing like this. I've made a huge mistake. I shouldn't be here. The city's so dangerous. And so we just tried to make ourselves okay in that moment. And I think about that a lot, because I feel like, should I have done something? Should I feel guilty about going and getting pancakes?
Yeah.
And I think ultimately I shouldn't, but that thought is always going to be there.
Yeah.
And Cyril doesn't live long enough to reflect on that in any way, right? Yeah. You know, I think it's so easy to be like, oh, I should have stopped the Gorman massacre. He couldn't have. Yeah. But there's always going to be that guilt. And it's just one of those really interesting things about life where we want to act perfectly, and we don't. But also, like, sometimes the acting perfectly means assuming we could have done something that just isn't within our purview to do. Yeah. Cyril wasn't going to stop the Empire in that moment. You know what I mean? Like, he couldn't even stop Deidre. His like,
can't even deal with dominatrix.
His mom. He couldn't stop his mom from going in his bedroom. And so I just think, like, the shell shock he feels in that moment, I understand it. And the thing that breaks him out of that is the man he dreams about at night. Right? He moans two people's name in his sleep, and it's Deidre and Cassian Andor, right? And I just think that it's really fascinating to... Yeah. L. Marby says, I feel like it is a cop-out that all the dirty deeds of the rebellion fall on Luthen, while the wider rebellion more or less gets to keep their hands clean. It rarely goes like that. I think the dirty deeds on Andor belong to Luthen. I don't think that the wider rebellion gets their hands clean. And if you watch, like, most of the other Star Wars media, like, the way in which other characters' hands are dirtied is in those things. They're just not in this episode, this show, because those aren't the main characters of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, that it would make for an incredibly unfocused narrative if you had to visit, like, why all of the people who are part of the rebellion are not clean and pure and 100% like perfectly moral, right?
Well, and I also think that, like, if you consider Rogue One to be the series finale of Andor, there is the moment in Rogue One where Cass walks up with Melchi and all the people. He walks up to Jyn and he's like, these are the people who have done the dirtiest shit. We're the assassins. We're the bombers. And I think that it's really interesting because not all of those people are Luthen's people. And so Rogue One acknowledges that there's more people doing dirty shit. Because we don't get 4 seasons, we're only seeing Luthen's big acts because Luthen is a main character. But Saw Gerrera is a menace. Genuine terrorist
fucking
rebellion.
Menace.
And the reality of rebellion is that Saw is responsible for the victory of the rebellion, even if the rebellion doesn't want to view it that way.
Really? Why do you think he's responsible for it?
Well, if Saw isn't radical in a way that catches Galen Erso's attention and they start a relationship, which gives Saw the resources to save Galen from Krennic the first time, which allows Saw to have the relationship with Krennic that allows for Galen to trust Saw with Jyn, which has Saw raise Jyn to be the tactical person that she is. which then leads to her having the ability and access to then connect with Saw and the ability to pull off what she does without Jyn Erso getting the Death Star plans off of Scarif. So like you literally can't.
But I mean like Saw Gerrera being a fucking terrorist. There's no reason that the rebellion couldn't have happened if
Luthen's
Saw
also a terrorist.
I mean,
we watch Clea blow up a hospital in this show, in episode 10.
She blows up some vehicles.
That's a terrorist act in a fascist state. The line between terrorist and rebel is invisible when you're under a fascist state, right? In a world where every action of the rebellion is illegal, there's a great line. I don't think it's in this. I think it's in. Was it in this episode or was it in when Saw talks to Mon Mothma in Rebels? I'm now conflating Rebels and Andor, which is crazy. There's a line where Saw and Mon Mothma are talking.
Yeah.
And Saw is like, "We're both criminals. I'm the one acting like it."
I think it's more that Saw like commits war crimes. Whereas like everyone else could be considered a terrorist. Like Saw deliberately kills innocent people, like deliberately targets locations and stuff that are like don't have proper protection, like can't like Saw deliberately kills innocent people, whereas I think with Luthen, what the difference is between them is that Luthen only kills people if it's necessary.
I mean, but what's necessary? Who gets to decide what is morally necessary when you're fighting against an empire? Right? Like the saying Luthen only kills when it's necessary based on whose perspective? Because from the Empire's perspective, all of it is illegal and all of it is terrorist shit.
Yeah, I just don't think someone who is like high as a fucking kite should be in charge of like making those decisions. You know what I mean? Like, things could have gone differently if Saw actually worked with the rebels.
I don't know that they could have. Because then Jyn would have been part of the rebels. Like I think,
and then she would have gotten the message way sooner.
Maybe, but I think that is. I think that in a perfect world you're right, but the world isn't perfect, and I think that
I'm just saying that like I think that you said the rebellion can't happen without Saw, and I don't know.
It literally doesn't exist without him. If you go all the way back to Saw in Clone Wars. And you track Saw's actions and the way that he interacts with and saves main characters across a variety of different pieces of media, right? Like, literally, like, Saw saves Jyn, Saw saves Cal Kestis, Saw saves... Like, the number of bad things that would happen in the universe without Saw Gerrera is a lot.
I mean, Cal Kestis doesn't aid the rebellion. What? What?
What? Cal takes out multiple Inquisitors, which helps the rebellion.
That is post rebellion.
Nope, definitely not. It's 15 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, I guess.
Because Saw's alive. Saw dies.
No, you're right. I'm so confused.
In Rogue One. What do you mean? Why are you confused?
Well, because none of those characters interact with any of the like mainstream Star Wars media, so it's hard to say whether or not like.
What are you calling mainstream Star Wars media now? Though it's all the same story.
I mean, like the main storyline.
But what is the main storyline in that?
The 9 movies.
Okay, sure, but also like Luthen doesn't interact with the main storyline then. Cassian Andor doesn't interact with the main storyline.
Yeah, it doesn't fucking matter.
At that point, once you start to peel that away, like...
Sure, yeah, it doesn't matter. This argument is pointless.
No, it's not. It's not pointless, though, because I feel like people push back on Saw, and like you say, like he is the terrorist one, and that's just not true. They're all terrorists. They are all terrorists. All of the all of the rebels are legally terrorists under the imperial regime. And trying to draw the distinction under a fascist state, under who is doing it the right way and who isn't, is a fool's errand. Saw has a great line where, I think that's in his speech to Mon Mothma in Rebels, where he says, I hope when the Empire wins and their they rule over the galaxy unopposed, that you die feeling okay about it because you fought the right way. Right? And he's saying, Luthen has a great line in season 1 where he's like, he's talking to Lonnie on the bridge, and he's saying like, it's in his great monologue in season 1, but he's saying, I have to use their tools to beat them. I have to do awful things. And the Empire is also being a terrorist, right? Mm-hmm. But the Empire, as the legal government, gets to say they're the terrorists, even though they're doing the exact same thing. And
yeah, I mean, I don't really care who the Empire calls a terrorist. That's not important to me. Anyone who goes against them is a terrorist. They say Deidre is a terrorist.
But the point is that terrorist is just a label that people put on, is a legal distinction at that point then. Because they're all terrorists.
Yeah, no, I just think that Saw is a, like, horrible person.
And Saw would say that Saw would say that he and Luthen both did the terrible things that needed to get done so that there could be a future for everybody. And that if nobody was willing to do terrible things, then the people who are willing to do terrible things stay in charge.
That's fine. I'm just not convinced that the rebellion would have failed without Saw.
Taryn, thank you.
Super chat. With the incredible dialogue, fantastic character direction, nail-biting political intrigue, and a strong reliance on practical sets, do you ever feel Gilroy is actually poking fun at Lucas and Filoni?
No, not at all.
No.
I think that Tony Gilroy...
I think he just was there to
doesn't
make
know who Dave Filoni is.
Good story. I'm sure he knows who he is. I'm sure he's met him. But no, I really would like to think that Andor is not brilliant out of spite for other artists.
Well, and Tony Gilroy, I don't believe that Tony Gilroy would have made this if he didn't massively respect the political commentary that is the original Star Wars trilogy, right? Mm-hmm. I think Tony Gilroy's commentary and respect for George Lucas runs throughout the entire series.
Yeah.
Especially, like, if you look at the prequels now, man, how, like, fascism starts with fucking tariffs. Like a trade embargo, and it is... George Lucas
they're gonna not let us in.
They're not gonna let us in anyway. Like,
no, I know.
Like, we're at that point. But the reality of it is, like, George Lucas called it... The prequels are so prescient now. And it seems almost, like, ridiculous how on the money George Lucas was. Mm-hmm. Right? It's almost like... It would be a comedy if it wasn't so sad. You know?
Yeah, I guess so.
And you know, they say comedy is just tragedy plus time. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, like, when enough time passes, it'll go back to being funny again.
Yeah.
But right now it isn't. Because we're all just wondering, like, who is going to be the Jar Jar Binks that doesn't understand what he's doing and, you know, actually fucks everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that a franchise as large as Star Wars needs people with different strengths. And I do think that, like the people who worked on Andor, their strengths were the dialogue and the political intrigue and things like that. But also Star Wars needs the technical revolutions that George Lucas brought about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, mm-hmm. it needs that. It needs it needs to have parts of it that are more accessible to children, whereas this mm-hmm. isn't, right? Like, and so I think that Tony Gilroy making fun of George Lucas and Dave Filoni is not even a little bit plausible. I think that the reason that Star Wars is the incredible, I was about to call it empire that it is, franchise that it is because of all of those people and all of their different strengths.
Well, and I think that a big part of it is Tony Gilroy, despite saying that he doesn't care about canon, like, he's literally been interviewed and he's been like, oh no, the reason why I was able to, like, put this show together was because I'm not a Star Wars fan, mm-hmm. and I'm not as precious about it as other people who make these shows. And it was so interesting because he also, like, is meticulous about canon.
Right.
Like, there is, other than the Cassian K2, the way that they met changing, mm-hmm. Tony Gilroy, and even that has been explained away as like the comic book is the propaganda story that the rebels tell so that people don't know that Cassian was on Gorman.
Right. Yeah.
The interesting thing about Tony Gilroy's story is that it lines up perfectly with all the other Star Wars media of the time. Mm-hmm. It doesn't negate anything, like which is a respect to Star Wars that George Lucas didn't show. Right? Like, Tony Gilroy is more respectful to the canon of Star Wars than George Lucas was.
Yeah.
And in that, I think that Tony Gilroy, I think that he comes across like the kind of artist to me who just respects anyone who creates. And I genuinely feel that he's one of those kind of people who just wants to be a part of the creation and has a lot of respect for the process.
Yeah.
And that comes across a lot in the way that like how meticulous his process is. And I think it's really wonderful to get to have experienced. Yeah.
I do feel very lucky that we have Andor to enjoy.
Oh, I completely agree. It is unlike anything I expected a Star Wars series to ever get to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I just...
Yeah.
And not that like the other series are bad. We loved Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew was a great show.
Yeah.
But
but both are Star Wars.
Yeah.
And that's what's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
That like it truly is. It's incredibly special. And but you know, part of me thinks that certain parts of the fandom do not realize how special that diversity is.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting, right? There's this like modern faction of fans who were kids, like, you know, my generation, weirdly, and a little bit older, who think that their franchises should grow with them and stagnate into like they should like stick with their generation.
Yeah.
And I almost agree with them on one element, just because I think that kids should get their own shit.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I think that we're ignoring how much kids are getting their own shit. We're just not paying attention to what they're into, right? Like, I do think that in like 20 years, we are going to see like more Fortnite, the movie. You know, what are kids today going to be nostalgic for, right?
Yeah. I'm still waiting for a RuneScape movie.
Western media is doing such a bad job of... You didn't even play the new game.
Is it out yet?
Yeah, it's out. Western media is doing such a bad job of creating new IP for young audiences that young audiences are finding their new IP in Japanese media, in Korean media, right? Like, the reason why anime is so popular now is that those are the franchises that are creating, other than like, you can see it in the success of the Minecraft movie. God, that movie fucking made money. Yeah. And go watch my review. I liked it.
You're like, it's not a good movie. I had a blast.
I really enjoyed my time in the theater, right?
Yeah.
And I think that we're kind of watching these franchises, even the superhero franchises that when I was a kid were kids shit. Literal kids shit.
Yeah. Remember when X-Men was for kids and then they made X-Men 97 and you're like...
And there's a fucking genocide in it, right?
Spoilers. Sorry.
Thank you to Bo DeMeo for watching my reaction.
Oh, that was wild. That was very funny. He like tweeted at you.
But I think that like this idea that these franchises should just be for adults is wrong.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do want new IP for kids to create their own, you know, relationships. But yeah. Given that, Star Wars isn't even my generation's, right? I love Star Wars because my mom was a fucking massive Star Wars fan who camped out to see the movies in the 80s.
Yeah, I had the VHS because my dad loved these movies, right? Like, that's, and that is a great point.
Wildly Coyote, thank you for that super chat. I stopped reading Star Wars as a kid because it was only the core characters. Tony is showing that there are good stories that don't involve a Skywalker and can still be engaging. I completely agree with that. Like, there has been...
Star Wars is a universe.
Well, Tony Gilroy is not the only person that's been showing that. Of
there
are some other incredible Star Wars things happening. But,
we're just here to talk about Andor and Rogue One today,
but this is a case of, like, I guess Mon Mothma, kind of, but Mon Mothma, until recently, was a glup shitto.
Bless you.
You know, like glup shitto. It's the famous tweet that, like, Star Wars fans will... a new Star Wars project come out, and Star Wars fans will be like, oh my god, glup shitto's gonna be in this. And it's just like that, like, small character that people don't that like doesn't even have a line, but that people are like, my Glup Shido is the guy
is Max Rebo.
Well, Max Rebo is almost too popular. Like, my Glup Shido is the guy in Rogue One that says, "What is she proposing?"
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like that's my Glup Shido. I get so excited for that line, and nobody else does.
Yeah,
because it's such a dumb moment to be excited about. I think that like Mon Mothma is almost a Glup Shido, right? She has like 3 lines, I think, in Return of the Jedi. Like, she's not a character.
Yeah.
And Genevieve O'Reilly, who just happened to look like the actress that had 3 lines in a movie in the 80s, gets cast as this part to be like window dressing in Revenge of the Sith, right? And is just present because they needed someone who looked like Mon Mothma to be in the movie, right?
Yeah.
15 years, or that was what, 2005? So 13 years later, Star Wars calls her up and is like, "Hey, we're doing Rogue One. Can you come do that being a Glup Shido again?"
That's so
And she's
wild.
like, "Fuck, I guess I'll do that." Yeah. Fucking another 6 years later, they're like, "We're doing a TV show, except now you're not going to have like 3 lines. You're going to, it's like an Emmy Award potential role.
You are going to fucking carry this shit, okay?" Because she was like truly remarkable. Like, I'm so blown away by her performance.
And Liger Zero is bringing up that Mon actually had more scenes that were deleted for Revenge of the Sith. That is true.
Right, of course.
But you know, Genevieve O'Reilly is this. It's this weird story of this actress who literally just happened to look like an actress from the 80s.
Yeah.
Takes over this role, and now like original trilogy Mon Mothma at this point is the fortunate circumstance that led to Genevieve O'Reilly giving like an all-time TV performance. Like, and that's nothing to discredit the original Mon Mothma actress. I don't want to, but like, I don't even know her name, right? Like, and maybe I should, but there is an element of like Genevieve O'Reilly had lucked into a role and then did such a good job.
Yeah.
Like, such a good job.
And now she gets the death of truth speech. Yeah, exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
Like,
leading up to in season 2, like, and look, I love the Rebels speech. I'm so glad they redid it and reframed the Rebels speech the way that they did into being the second speech.
I thought that was so good.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was brilliant because I know a lot of people were like, "So what? How's that gonna work out?" Right? Because everyone loves Rebels, right? No one wants that storyline, that canon to be disrespected. And so I really actually I loved how that all played out. It was incredible.
Wallopy Joe says her name is Carolyn Blackiston. Carolyn Blackiston, you're wonderful. I've loved you my whole life. I promise I'm not trying to take away from your legacy.
She's still alive at 92.
And
damn.
Look, if I'm lucky enough, I'll get to meet her. But I'm not taking away from
legacy. She doing the
Comic-Con
rounds?
At 92? I hope not.
I want to be in something so that at 92 we can do the Comic-Con rounds.
I mean, based on the way I think retirement is going to exist for our generation, we will still be doing the...
Yeah.
We will still be doing this show.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair.
We'll be doing the 60-year anniversary of Andor Season 2 live spoiler chat.
We'll still be doing book club. We'll do our
We're never gonna run out of books.
Reread of Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn Era 1.
When Stormlight Archive Book 20.
Oh boy.
When Brandon Sanderson's AI will still be pumping out Stormlight Archive books after his death.
Oh, you God, Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Liger Zero says, cast Nerdy in a Star Wars Now Lucasfilm. They never would.
Unfortunately, as much as we would love to be in a Star Wars, unfortunately, we have not loved everything that Star Wars has put out. And
that's not why they wouldn't cast us.
Right, they wouldn't cast either of us because I'm a whore. But we have also been publicly not the biggest fans of the Acolyte and Obi-Wan.
I don't think they care about that.
I
don't know. I have come close to being on Star Trek a couple times. I can't talk about it. Like, I have multiple NDAs for auditions for Star Trek, so I can't talk about that. But Star Trek does film in Toronto.
Yeah.
The modern shows.
We just have to get on The Boys.
I've tried.
So have I.
Oh man, there's so many of The Boys NDAs that we can't talk about.
Oh my god. My Gen V audition.
The questions. Well, that's already out.
Yeah.
I think you can talk about that.
Yeah, Probably, actually.
But because that scene exists, like you can be like, I auditioned for that part. That would be. But there's a scene there's a couple of scenes in Gen V season 2 that I have auditioned for, and I know what happens in them. I'm not going to break my NDAs.
Yeah.
But they led to some of the like most insane emails I've ever, like the most insane email exchanges I've ever had with my agent, where she's like, so
are you good with this? And you're like, yeah, whatever.
Would you be comfortable doing this on camera? And then she types it out, and I'm like she's a mom. Like, I feel like her having to type out what the scene is causes her like psychic damage. And of course, my immediate response was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, whatever you need.
I showed my dick on fucking Cross. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And there is some stuff that's gonna happen in Gen V season 2 that I cannot wait to see.
Yeah.
Because I have those scripts. Anyway. Nerdy is a Twi'lek for sure. Oh my god. Give me some Twi'lek.
That would actually be great. Wasn't there a like male dancer in what was it? They had like because they always have like the female Twi'leks like as like the strippers or whatever, but I swear to god that there was a scene where they had a male stripper as well.
In Star Wars?
Yeah. Dancer.
Wasn't that on Boba Fett? Wasn't it in the casino on Boba Fett? And they were like, it's a trans... People were upset that it might have been a trans Twi'lek, and it was like a whole...
Probably,
It was one of those 24-hour news cycles that was just dumb and everyone forgot about.
Yeah. Literally, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I've forgotten about it.
Anyway. Clara says a Wookiee. You could play like a child Wookiee.
I could play an Ewok. If they ever bring the Ewoks back.
I did a musical that was directed by the assistant director of Caravan of Courage.
Oh,
the
right.
Ewok movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't talk to him about it the whole time because I didn't want him to think that I was a fucking weirdo. But I was so excited to be like directed by someone who worked on Star Wars.
Yeah.
And so we were in the cab to the cast party. It was just him and I. I can't remember why it was just him and I. And I was like, look, I've been meaning to ask you about this the entire time we've worked together, and I've tried not to be weird about it, but like, I'm the biggest Star Wars fan. What was it like working on Caravan of Courage? And he was like, oh yeah, I did work on that. It was hot. And I was like, what? He was like, yeah, California redwoods. We were filming in the forest, and the Ewoks kept passing out. And I was like, that's all you worked on a Star Wars movie, and all you remember is that the suits kept making people pass out.
Yep.
I was so mad.
That checks out. Felipe
M says, I've said it before, but Deidre's fate was wonderfully ironic. She started her career hoping to escape from her parents' fates, became a monster, and then ended up in the same spot.
Yeah, her storyline is so interesting. I was gonna say, let's talk about Deidre as a character because we talked about Cyril. Yeah. I can't get it out of my head.
Yeah.
That she's gonna be free in like 5 years.
Well, yeah. Well, and because I made the comment on the book on the final episode that I was like, oh, she's actually probably walks, like free.
Yeah.
Because when they free her, she's going to have been imprisoned for being a rebel spy. And someone in chat was like, well, no, but like they know that she did Gorman. And I was like, who knows that she did Gorman?
No one alive.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Luthen is dead. Luthen and Cassian.
So like, unless...
Maybe Clea knew? Because Clea is still alive.
Maybe. Through the whole war? We don't know that.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Does she get off Yavin? Does she get off Hoth? Does she... like...
There are plenty of opportunities for her to die, is what we're saying.
And so there's a really interesting element of Deidre in the short term, ends up in an awful position. And we know exactly what she's doing. She's helping build probably Death Star 2 at that point, because Death Star 1 would have been completed.
Yeah.
Other than the weapon is the only thing that's not completed at that point. So she's probably working on Death Star 2 on program.
How long do you think she makes it?
Here's the thing about Deidre. She is like one of the things I think is fun about the show is that Deidre and Cass are foils for one another in that Cassian is they really explicitly call Cassian the messenger. and they really explicitly call Deidre the scavenger. Mm-hmm. And they both kind of do the same thing. And they're both incredibly persistent in their goals.
Right.
I think that Deidre, much like Cassian Andor, survives.
Yeah, I tend to think so as well.
I view her as, I think that no matter how depressed and down she gets, partially because of her upbringing, like her being locked in that Imperial prison is probably not that dissimilar to her childhood, unfortunately. In a real dark way, right?
Yeah.
In the Imperial kiln that she was in.
Kennels or whatever?
I think they called it the kiln.
No, a kiln is where you, like, throw things into a fire.
No, I don't think it is a kiln. I think they called it the kiln.
I thought it was kennel.
Because it was like a forge, like they were forged by the Empire. I think is like the idea.
I thought it was like a dog kennel. Like they throw the kids in there.
Maybe?
Yeah.
The Kinderblocks. That's what it is. We're both wrong.
Oh, yeah. No, we're both wrong.
Although Kinderblock does sound like a chocolate bar from Britain.
Kinderblock. Yeah.
Well, you got your Kinder Eggs, you've got your Kinder Surprise, and you got your Kinder Blocks.
Yeah, of course. And
just a block of Kinder chocolate. Deidre actually grew up making Kinder Surprise.
Oh my God. Yeah. Talented. I think that Deidre surviving.
Oh, Kinder is German for children. Good to know.
Oh, gotcha. I think that, Deidre surviving depends on whether or not she fully believes that the Empire will keep their power.
Oh, and you think that even though she feels betrayed by them, she would... that's interesting. Part of me is like, wow, I'd love to know what happens to her, but at the same time, it's fun to just speculate because she's not important anymore. Can I give the darkest answer that I think is probably the closest to the truth?
Yeah, of course.
I don't think that the cell blocks on Narkina are on enough registries and are widely known enough in the Empire that when things start to go really bad for the Empire, I don't think that the people on Narkina, if it is Narkina, care enough about the prisoners to take them with them when they flee. And I'm willing to bet they are left with the lights on for as long as the hydro generator runs with no one to come and save them.
Interesting.
And no way off. Right. And I think that some of them probably jump off. I think that when they realize that the guards have all left, some of them probably jump off and swim to nearby shores.
Yeah.
But a lot of them die in there. And that
maybe.
I think the Empire just leaves them. And I think that I think that if they were to do like an accounting of the galaxy, there would be a lot of places at the end of the Empire that were just left with prisoners or, prisoners of war just kind of left behind in a place that people forgot about until it was too late to save people.
I mean, if it is Narkina, right, we do know that there is a way to get out of the facility. And so it really, it depends. I think that them being left there to their own devices to starve is totally plausible. But whether or not they starve, I think that they're able to find a way out if Cassian was able to.
But that was dependent on them turning the floors off.
Yeah.
So it would only work if they went up and had someone who, like Cass's people were only able to survive because the guy running the floors turned them off.
Turn them off.
Right? So Cass's rebellion
have to go turn them off.
Needed someone who worked there to turn it off. If the guards just turned the floors on and left.
Oh, I see.
There's nothing that anyone could do.
Yeah,
they would just be stuck with the floor in the middle, and the food would still come out of the tube for as long as there's food in the facility. So they would live for a while,
I guess. Yeah.
But they would, it's just kind of it's the darkest thought. But I think that a lot of them,
unless they are able to do what Cassian did, and while the floors are on, they flood them and short out the system.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, it depends on what they're capable of.
Yeah,
but...
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Deidre's storyline was fascinating, and her end of being up in prison is so narratively satisfying.
Yeah, there is a comment on our episode 10 reaction where someone was like, I think you misunderstood the scene because Lonnie using Deidre's shirt code has nothing to do with her being arrested. And then if you start episode 11, Krennic walks in and is like, somebody used your shirt code and I had to come here. You were arrested. And I was like, I felt so... I didn't comment on their comment because I didn't want to be an ass. But there was a part of me that wanted to be like, actually, I was fucking right.
Yeah. Well, and it went over my head. I was like, really? Huh? Like, I didn't clue into it. And so, but then I had the joy of like feeling all the pieces like... Of
Krennic's finger on the top of her head.
Which was apparently totally improvised.
Taryn McCage says...
thank you for another super chat.
Do you guys think Cinta's death is a bury your gaze trope?
No.
A little bit. No. I disagree with you.
No, we've talked about this. I think in a series where so many people die that like, yeah, one of the gay characters also dies. I think it's weirder if for some reason all the gay characters survive.
But here's my pushback on that. Okay. I initially said that it wasn't a bury your gaze trope when I thought that everybody was dying. And then a lot of people who I think should be dead didn't die.
Really?
Yeah. Will should be dead. Because for my money, there's no reason Will is alive and isn't part of the crew.
But he's a person of color. So then what are you going to, like, if they only killed...
No, but I think that Will should have died. I think that Clea probably should have died. I think that Vel should have died. Like, Vel just... Mon Mothma having a cousin who's around is just very weird to me during the rebellion. Who's also, like, never mentioned in Rebels. Or, like, there's just a bunch of characters who, because they don't show up in the rebellion in any way moving forward... Especially Will not being in the group that shows up with Melchi and Cassian to go to Scarif is very weird to me. Partially because, can we talk about this for a second? I thought Saw gave an incredible speech to Will to inspire him to do something. You know what I mean? Like, we are the friction that burn. And then Will, like, he's there for the Gorman massacre.
Yeah.
And then after that, just, like, is chilling with his girlfriend on Yavin.
Sure. I definitely think that, like, Will, in terms of the character narrative, was expendable. But then, again, you would have killed one of the queer people and the person of color.
I think, like, 7 or 8 more people should have died. And then I wouldn't...
Who?
Will, Clea, Vel, the woman from Gorman...
So you think that just everybody should have died? I think Clea surviving...
In order for it to not feel bury or gazy, yes. Because she's one
of the... But Vel is also gay. So...
Well, yeah, but all bury or gaze... Sure, but bury or gaze is about, like, the pain of one gay... Is part of the, like, gay people in media are always suffering, and that we always kill one of them so that one of them is always suffering. It's the idea that, like, we always have to watch gay stories about gay suffering, and in that, this kind of...
Death is pretty suffering.
I'm not saying that the trope is always bad, and I don't think that the trope... I'm not saying that the trope... That gay people should never die in media, but because a lot of the straight couples all survive this show... Cassian and Bix both survive the show. Will
because
and
we
his
know
Gorman
Cassian goes and
immediately
dies.
Your pushback isn't about my point at all. You're just pushing back on... yeah, I hear you, but, like, that's not a pushback on what I'm saying. My pushback is that the straight people survive and the gay couple doesn't.
I mean, Cyril dies, right?
Cyril isn't on the good side. That doesn't... That is...
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, I guess. There aren't a ton of... like romantic relationships then on the show to like have enough of one like
again, I'm not saying that it's bad.
Yeah.
I'm not. I am just saying that because of the characters who survive, this leans a little bit into the bury your gaze trope. Tropes aren't always bad, and you can use tropes. It is okay to use tropes, right? It is okay for gay characters to die in media, but this becomes a little bit more of that trope because of who lives. That's all. It does not affect... I still think this is one of the greatest shows ever made. So it doesn't impact my enjoyment of it.
Sure.
It just does become more of that trope than it would have been if more characters had died. If more, like, of the younger characters who have a future... Luthen dying doesn't counteract the trope at all because Luthen's older and the show was always going to end in his death. You can't have him give his speech in season 1 and then have him alive at the end of the show. It would be insane.
I guess, but Lonnie dies.
Sure. I'm not saying that nobody else dies.
I just think
it doesn't matter. Your pushback you're not pushing back actually on this at all. Let's move on.
I just think that the weird tally of okay, well, if you're gonna kill a gay person, you have to kill 2 straight people to even it out. That kind of math, I don't think benefits a story or a narrative in any way. I think that it really comes down to the characters and their roles within the narrative, and it's not. And I think that Cinta dying serves the story in a very specific way. It's not purely just so that Vel suffers. And so it just,
In what way does Cinta dying serve the story outside of Vel's emotional reaction to it?
Because it shows the Gormans that this is real. What they are doing, people are going to get hurt. Okay, and people they are, people who are there to help them, right? They were you need to be here, you need to help us, you need to make this rebellion happen for us, in a way. That's a bit harsh. But then someone comes in and helps them, and they fucking shoot, they shoot them, right? I think that that her death, narratively, is actually more impactful to what it means for the Gormans than what it means for Vel. It's sad for Vel. It sucks.
And it is still the bury your gays trope. All of the things that you just said are true.
Sure.
They're all true. It just doesn't change the fact that it is still the trope. It's a good use of the trope, right? It is an effective use of the trope. It is still the trope. Trying to say that it isn't the trope because there are other factors doesn't really discount what...
Sorry, you said that the trope was for the purpose of just having the other character suffer.
There are going to be people... I'm sure if I looked in chat right now... RM says, yeah, it can be an awesome show and still be analyzed for the tropes, yeah. RM also says, Cinta, our text chat was going off on that death for the here we go again. I agree. Just because it's well used and just because it serves the show doesn't mean that it doesn't fall under the trope of the gay people can't make it to the end happy, and they don't in the show.
And I misunderstood then, because I thought the trope was that one character's death is purely for the painful experience of their partner. I thought that's what the trope was.
It is that there is a ongoing it is ongoing that in a lot of media that engages in, particularly in science fantasy fiction, war media, that there are straight couples that make it from beginning to end, and the gay couples don't, and that there's a significant more amount of gay suffering in media when they exist, and that in order for it to be okay that the gays are there, they have to not be together at the end of the story, right? And this is another story where that is true. It's not, that doesn't make Andor bad.
I'm saying that I misunderstood what the definition of that trope was.
Right. And so just because Andor is still amazing doesn't mean that at the end of the show, and yes, I know Cassian dies immediately in Rogue One, but at the end of this show, there are 2 straight couples that are still together, and the gay couple or not together, but that are still alive, and Cassie and Bix have a kid, right? There's a happy ending for both straight couples, as happy as the show can get, and in the gay couple there isn't. That is just the reality of it. It doesn't detract from the show. It's just the reality of what it is.
All right.
And so I do think they engage in the trope a little bit. That you can't tell stories without tropes, though, right? You can't at all get away from tropes completely. That's just a trope that's in this. Yeah. Yeah. John Nyber says, pretty sure Vel and Clea end up together. I don't know. They have a... Taryn, thank you for that super chat. They just leaned really hard into the gay relationship just before killing her. 100%. And I agree with you. That is an element of it. I love that scene for the two of them, so I'm glad we got it.
Yeah.
But... Yeah. Yeah, it's just a factor. And I understand the gay people out there who would love to see more science fiction fantasy where they can imagine a happy ending for them too, Yeah. And that's... It's particularly interesting here because while we don't know what happens to Will and his girlfriend, and we don't know what happened to Bix and her kid, we do know the rebellion wins. We do know that there is a 30 years of happiness coming for the galaxy soon.
Sure.
That obviously leads to the sequel trilogy. But yeah, it's just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think that there are people saying, Bix's end is also a little bit tropey, but again, it's one of those things where it works for the narrative and it's earned,
I
right?
don't find her ending tropey at all.
The mom goes off to have the baby, so the baby can have the future. I mean that's just like it's the hope for the future.
I just don't know what trope that would be. Like what like the. I mean, yeah, I guess, yeah. I don't know. I don't know that I could like point to a lot of stories that are like, I have to leave so that you don't leave the rebellion because you have to be here. So I'm gonna go have our kid without you knowing. Like,
no, it's about going to like have a kid in safety and like leaving everything behind for your child, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Because Bix does have to leave everything behind. Luckily, she does go find B2 emo again. I was like so fucking sad that that poor bee was left on that planet without an explanation for like 2 years.
Well, but I have questions about that. Like, how one of the things that I was so curious about Bix's final scene is how is that planet safe for her to go back to? She murdered an Imperial. Like, she doesn't go back there after the rebellion wins. The as far as I can tell, the Empire is still in control of that planet. And the last time she was there, she murdered a captain.
Well, she killed the people who saw her face. There's not a single person in the Empire.
That's a good point.
Who actually knows what
no one knows she
like.
did it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows what happened.
I was just kind of surprised from the perspective of, like, she already... Like, the security there's only going to be more strict now that Imperials have been murdered there. So you would think that would be a dangerous place for her to go back to. That, like, Imperial security would be ramped up. But again, like, Imperial security has its limitations. Cassian, who is a very famous criminal...
Yeah.
It never wears a mask.
Well, and they literally say, like, well, we have the work demands on these people, and they don't have the resources to have everyone here legally. So they know that out of all the places in the galaxy to end up.
Yeah.
At least you know that maybe you have a chance here.
Chris Blakely, thank you for that super chat.
Thank you.
Do you think we should have seen Bix using name bricks? Using name bricks to do what, Chris?
Like, on Ferrix?
Like, should she have made... I don't know that she could have even made bricks on that planet. I don't know how you make bricks. I'm not gonna lie, I don't actually know what bricks are made out of, so...
Like, you mean, like, making bricks for... She doesn't know Cassian's dead yet? Yeah, I'm not really sure.
El Marby says, heck, the rebellion returned to Hoth? Bix's return is small fry? When did the rebellion return to Hoth?
Huh?
When did the rebellion return to Hoth?
Didn't they just go there, right?
I don't remember them returning after they're found there. Blige Monkey says, also, I think they were showing us how much the Empire is cannibalizing itself by the end. Every mistake in the Empire is the end of your life career. Oh, 1,000%, right?
Yep.
But it's the problem. It's interestingly, fucking, it's okay if I go political again. It's interesting, the problem that I think the Trump administration is going to have with their kind of like intellectual purity tests that they constantly do is that like Pete Hegseth should have lost his job. Like, truly should have. Pete Hegseth should not be running the American military, right? He's incompetent. But I think that there is a fear within the Trump administration of firing him and then having to deal with him being out there, being pissed that he got fired. And like, how do you handle that? The Trump administration isn't going to kill him. They're not the Empire, right? They're not fucking secreting former employees away and murdering them in fucking faraway planets.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah, well, and I don't think we will get there, right? I don't think that's the goal, but I do think that like there's a legitimate issue that in the first Trump administration they ran through people so fast, like Scaramucci, and when Scaramucci was press secretary for 11 days, and then when he got fired, he became an anti-Trumper.
Yeah.
And there was like that intellectual problem of like, fuck, these people are not good at their job, but when I fire them, then suddenly I have people who are technically on my side of the aisle but are pissed at me because they lost their job.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like that is stopping. That's literally the fear of having to deal with Hegseth after firing him is the only reason he's still running the military. Like, I genuinely think that, because he's not good at it. right? And a lot of them aren't. Chrissy Noem is about to burn through the fucking budget of her department 2 months early. Like, they're literally, I don't know what they're fucking gonna do there. Kash Patel isn't even giving Congress a budget. Congress is like, how much money do you need? We'll give you the money. We just need to know how much. And he's like, I don't know.
Just money. just keep it coming.
And so there's this weird, like, I don't know what's gonna happen there, but the Empire is gonna run into that same problem. I honestly think that part of the reason why the rebellion wins is that problem, right? Of like, Portagaz, Deidre fucks up and Portagaz kills himself over it.
Yeah.
In one of the most fascinating scenes in the show with fucking Baldy and I shouldn't call him Baldy, but I don't know his name. Being like to the stormtroopers, he fucking knows that Portagaz is about to shoot himself in the head before he leaves that room.
Yeah, that's why he doesn't jump, but the stormtroopers do.
Oh no, 1,000%.
Yeah.
It's just can you imagine going to work every day in a place where
if you fuck up, you have to fucking shoot yourself in the head or go to prison. Like,
yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Roger 5171. Thank you for that super chat.
Let's fucking go.
Captain Leggett, thank you so much.
I love that Nemec's manifesto has been out there, gaining popularity in the culture of the galaxy. Was Partagaz more disturbed that they have been unable to stop it, or that he could not deny its truth?
Oh, that's fucking good, Roger. I think both, right? But which is the bigger part of it? I think
it's the first one personally, but I think that you could really infer either or.
I also disagree. I agree with you. I think that I think that he intellectually and actively is disturbed more by the Empire's inability to stop it. I think that his subconscious is more disturbed.
Yes.
Because I think there's...
But he goes to work every day with these people.
Yeah.
And his job is to oppress.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And he's like, he knows how much resources the Empire uses to, like, stop people from rebelling and take away their freedoms and stuff. Like, he has intimate knowledge of that. Yeah. And so he has to be thinking in that moment, look at all that we've done. And we still can't, we're still losing our grasp.
Well, and, Lonnie dies, obviously, in episode 10. And Lonnie is the hero of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Like, Lonnie is truly the hero of the rebellion.
Hero that nobody knew, yeah.
I want the Funko Pop for Lonnie. I want to shake that man's hand. I want his, you know what I mean? I want to, like, model his mustache.
Yeah.
But Lonnie destroys the ISB. But between, if you really think about the fucking Empire... Between, like, in the span of, like, 12 days, they lose Deidre, the fucking guy that took Deidre's position in Axis.
Krennic.
Partagaz, Krennic, Tarkin.
Yeah.
Because Tarkin dies in the Battle of Yavin.
Oh, that's so soon, yeah.
Which is, like, the day after Rogue One, right? And so, within, like, a week and a half, the entire structure of the ISB is gone.
Yeah, I guess so.
No wonder they're not a part of Empire Strikes Back or fucking Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, they fell the fuck apart.
Lonnie destroyed them.
Yeah. Guys, Lonnie is like the true MVP. Taryn, thank you for that super chat. Do you think Andor's greatness is due to the talent and money stars aligning perfectly, or do you think Disney can crack the Gilroy code and make more? Oh man, that is a complicated question. I think the potential is always there for this to happen again. I think that Star Wars is an incredibly vast universe where
I don't think it'll happen in Star Wars.
You don't think it'll happen in Star Wars? Interesting.
Yeah. I think that we could get something similar in Marvel. I think that we could get something similar from Disney Plus in another franchise. I think we could get something as good as this again in Star Wars. I just don't think... I think it will be very different in its themes and tones. Because I think that Star Wars in general will stay away from this idea for a while. Because this is so good that, like, why would you try and compete with yourself?
Why would you fuck around with it?
I think that we're going to get a lot of, like, lightsabers and Jedis and star pilots. I think Star Wars is just going to do something else for a while, because doing another super deep fascism show would be just
no it would be
compared
tough.
To Andor would suck.
I just mean I mean more in terms of, like, Andor's quality level. I don't think that there's I don't think we need that. We need Andor again in terms of like what it had to say, right?
I just think part of what makes it so good is that it is so politically relevant. That it has something to say about the real world. And I don't know that... I think that in Star Wars trying to tell stories that are a little bit more fun for a little bit, you won't be able to hit as high highs because they won't hit as hard thematically on real life. Like, part of why Andor is so good is because it is bone-chillingly horrifying in a way that no horror movie could ever be.
Yeah.
Right? It is scarier to me than any Saw movie, any... You know what I mean? Like, it is the horror of reality. I just don't think we're going to get that for a while. I think we will in Marvel. I think that Thunderbolts is the Rogue One of the Marvel Universe. Oh. And I think that we're going to see Marvel kind of start playing in that sandbox a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they need to find a way to stay relevant, and the superhero stuff isn't working as much.
Well, and if they, like, you know, I think that X-Men 97 was very successful and also very relevant in its themes.
But will that continue to be good without Beau DeMayo? Right? Like, how much was he responsible for the quality of the first season?
Yeah.
And you know, like, here's the thing. I've now chatted with him and or not really, but like we've sent message back and forth, and I'm still gonna watch season 2. I'm still gonna react to the show. He built the foundation. I don't think it's disrespectful to continue to react to the show. Yeah. I also don't know really what happened behind the scenes, so I don't want to like vilify either side. We can never
know.
But at the same time, like I think it's a shame what happened to him, and that first season's so good. I wish that he would get to finish his vision for it.
Yeah, of course.
Because I love the 92 X-Men show. 97 kicks its ass.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to see really cool quality stuff. I think that the next couple things from Star Wars have an uphill battle. I think that Ahsoka season 1 wasn't very strong in a lot of ways, and I think that Ahsoka season 2 has a lot to do to like impress me, or even like hook me. They have a lot. They have to make me give a shit about Sabine as a Jedi.
Yeah,
the action has to improve.
And the next movie we've got is Mandalorian, right?
Which
people are kind of hot and cold on. So in terms of Star Wars, I don't know, but I do think that it's not that I think that there will never be anything as incredible as Andor ever again, right? There are incredible artists who have stories to tell, but Andor really does feel special and unique.
And there's other things like Andor coming out right now. Like I think that Succession hit that way. I think
people love that, and we haven't seen it yet.
Severance is hitting that way for a lot of people.
I mean, we loved Shogun, and in terms of quality, like
I would put Shogun up there with Andor.
Yeah,
I would put Shogun up there.
Absolutely.
It not as serious, but in terms of like well made, I would put in a slightly behind those Fallout. I think that first season of Fallout was absolutely immaculately put together.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite hit Shogun Andor levels. But it is as close as you can get with as much comedies in that show, I think.
For sure, yeah.
There's more super chats.
Yeah, sorry guys. Ilzram, thank you for that super chat. Both, they can't stop it because it is true, which I believe is a reference to Rogers.
The Portuguese thing, I agree with you. I think that Portuguese can't admit the second one to himself yet, though. And I think in the afterlife he can.
Yeah, I think it's there subconsciously, like you said. For sure.
And Chris Pilkington, thank you for that super chat. It's a spy's retirement. No one wants a trial. I want the trial, though.
I know, right? I'm like, I want to see it.
Yeah.
I think that Nemec's speech is one of the best things that Star Wars has written.
Well, and
it gets me every time. It's so incredible.
The beauty of it's a tragedy because Alex, you should know his name. But the beauty of Portuguese being like, this speech is so popular, they don't even know what it is. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't know who it is.
Yeah.
I do wonder who's broadcasting it. Because Cassian has to be somewhat responsible for that. Because he was the only person who had a copy, right? He leaves Aldani with Nemec's speech.
Yeah, I wonder
so who's broadcasting it out is a question I would love to know.
Left it on the, wheat planet. And Bix...
I don't think they would be broadcasting it.
You don't think that Bix would get it out there and send it to people that would broadcast it?
I love Bix, but Bix's sending communication days have only ever led to her getting captured by the Empire.
Yeah, no,
the Empire has actually gotten really good at finding out when Bix is sending out messages.
That is fair. I'm just trying to think, who would have access to that speech to get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that... Here's the thing. I do think that Bix is I had to step away, and I can't do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
But passing along this recording to somebody on my journey along the way, getting it into the right hands, could be a fairly minimal risk, especially if it's a message no one's heard yet, potentially. So I don't know.
Liger Zero says Kathleen Kennedy is none more bad than good, but I do give her credit for Andor. She learned from the mistake of not having a clear story for the sequel trilogy and bringing back the guy who wrote Rogue One. I disagree with that. I think that Kathleen Kennedy has done more good than bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also, like, if we watch Rise of Skywalker right now, I'd have a great time. I can enjoy that movie. I acknowledging its flaws, right?
Yeah,
I don't think it's perfect.
Yeah.
But I can sit here. I enjoyed watching it. The first time I saw it in theaters, I had a great time. Mm-hmm. And on rewatches, there's Last Jedi, things I don't like about it. There's a video on this channel of things I don't like about it. But I still enjoy the movie overall, and I think it's beautifully shot. But other than those two movies, I fucking love Solo. I will defend Solo.
I love Solo.
I think the movie's great. I think rewatch Rogue One. Rogue One is
brilliant.
One of my favorite Star Wars movies.
Fucking brilliant.
She produced both of them. She produced Andor. Skeleton Crew's great. The Mandalorian is great, even though season 3 isn't as great as the first two seasons.
Well, and one of the biggest problems with the sequels, because I'm not a fan of them, what isn't that it's Kathleen Kennedy, it's that it's that production fell apart and people left, and there was not clear instruction on where they
fell apart on the sequels. Ever.
I thought they changed directors.
No, but they didn't change directors. The plan was always to change directors. That was Kathleen Kennedy's plan, and the plan was a mistake. I will acknowledge that Kathleen Kennedy's plan for the sequel trilogy was a mistake.
I thought there was not enough information left behind. Like, the new director was like, okay, what do I do with this?
Because Kathleen Kennedy was like, we're going to do 3 different people doing 3 different visions for 3 different movies, but there'll be 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
That was always the plan. There was no point where J.J. Abrams was going to direct all 3.
Yeah,
it was always going to be J.J. Abrams, Rian Johnson, and oh my God, what was his name?
Don't know.
He directed Tomorrowland and then got taken off of it, right? Because Tomorrowland bombed for Disney.
I don't know.
I think that's right.
I don't like those movies.
Chat, can you guys check me on that?
Fact check. Yeah. Live fact check.
What was the movie? Colin Trevorrow.
Okay.
What was the movie that, maybe it wasn't Tomorrowland then. What was the movie he directed that basically got him like shit canned off of Rise of Skywalker? Because he directed a massive bomb and then he got fired.
Oh, hilarious. Yeah, I mean, people love to find a name to kind of pin things on, and I do not think Kathleen Kennedy has done more bad than good.
I think that I think the fact that Star Wars is relevant 11 years after George Lucas sold it is a fucking miracle. I think the fact that we got that there are 7 Star Wars shows, 5 movies, and people think that they're like, oh my God, Star Wars has died. We're not gonna get 2 movies and 3 series a year. When I was a kid, I got a Star Wars every 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
And then I got Clone Wars, and Clone Wars got canceled, and I didn't get the end of Clone Wars. Do you know why I got the end of Clone Wars and I got the Siege of Mandalore arc? It's because Kathleen fucking Kennedy made sure that they produced it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kathleen Kennedy brought in Dave Filoni and was like, we're finishing this fucking show, and then we're going to do Rebels, and then we're going to finish Clone Wars. We're going to do fucking Bad Batch, which I have problems. Bad Batch is the weakest of those shows to me, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah.
We're getting a fucking Maul Shadow Lord show. It's hard for me to be mad at Kathleen Kennedy that 2 movies didn't maybe work.
And
when
the thing is that people as a human flaw, we tend to remember the negatives, right? We tend to kind of fixate on those, which I think is why a lot of people are like, yeah, Kathleen Kennedy is the problem, because some of the projects have been bad, right? But
and
there's so many of them.
NY Sly says the Book of Henry was the movie. Yeah, Book of Henry bombed so hard.
Never even heard of it.
I know. It bombed so hard that Colin Trevorrow they were like, oh, you're not going to make Star Wars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that what happened with Game of Thrones season 8?
No.
With D&D?
No, the Benioff and Weiss thing, their Star Wars thing died for other reasons. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Well, no. I think their Star Wars. I think that their thing got canceled because the sequel movies were doing so bad. And then they were like, we're going to make a Rian Johnson trilogy. Yeah, it was the whole thing. But,
yeah.
But yeah, oh my God, yeah, Book of Henry. I remember like this was back when I was still like watching Collider the Collider movie talk pretty actively. And the ongoing conversation about like is Book of Henry going to be so bad that Colin Trevorrow gets taken off of Star Wars? It was like a daily topic of conversation for weeks, and then it did happen. Everyone was like, well, yeah.
But yeah, we have Andor, and Andor is brilliant. And like
I feel like we didn't talk about Diego Luna enough in this podcast.
It's so tough to talk about Diego Luna because he's just perfect. And like we could say that over and over again, but like there is not a misstep or a misbreath or a T that is not crossed or an I that is not dotted because Diego Luna is perfect in this role. Cassian is perfect. It is so natural. This show lives and breathes through Diego Luna. Like and that's it. That's kind of all I have to say.
Yeah.
He's so good.
He leads the show with so much surety.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes I talk about like someone letting go of the rope a little bit, right?
Uh-huh.
And this is the kind of show where there's enough of an ensemble where Diego Luna could have let go of the rope a little bit and let others lead a little, right? Like there are times when like Skarsgård could have taken over a little bit more, and in those scenes, and he doesn't, because Diego Luna is so magnetic and so engaged and so engaging, and he's a true like leading man in this show.
Yep.
In a way that I think allows everyone else to play a lot, and because the center of the show is so stable and so consistent, and when we do kind of get some of these moments in the final arc, like when they're playing cards, we get Diego Luna being fun and being happy a little bit, even though Bix is left. Yeah. And the first watch through of that, I was a little bit struck by like, oh, they're like smiling and playing cards. And that's a part of the rebellion too.
Yeah.
And Diego Luna brings every element of Cassian in a way that is, obviously heartbreaking. When he dies at the end of Rogue One, when we were watching it last night, I was just weeping.
Oh, man, yeah.
And it really is. Also, Diego Luna playing the arc of, and this is why I wanted to bring this up, the arc of his character to get to Rogue One so that Rogue One feels, when you start Rogue One, the scene between him and Tivik fits so perfectly to the final episodes of Rogue One. It's wild. It's crazy.
Seamless. And I wanted to bring that up and really acknowledge that what an incredible performance to not make those things feel like they were years apart filming wise. Like it truly does feel like he went from the end of Andor and jumped into Rogue One. I don't know how he does it, but it was incredible to watch.
It is.
He didn't miss a beat.
It becomes a little weird how much the movie focuses on Jyn. Because I was like, oh, Cassie, I wanted Cassie to take over the movie more because I was so, on the show.
Used to him being the main character.
There was a funny thing watching where I was like, we talking
when does Cassian show up?
At the beginning of the movie, I was like, I'm getting excited for the Ring of Kafrene. And then the Ring of Kafrene came on screen and I was like, we're here. It's my boy.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to get, I don't know what I'm getting tattooed on my body yet, but I want an Andor tattoo. I have a Lord of the Rings tattoo that's in Tangwar. And so my next tattoo plan is to get an Arabesh tattoo. And I don't know if I want to get One Way Out or I Have Friends Everywhere.
Oh, I Have Friends Everywhere is so good,
but
though.
I genuinely love this TV show enough that I'm like, I'm getting the meaning of this TV show tattooed on my body because of what this show means to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to have this permanent. And because... And Lord of the Rings is the only other thing that I have like that.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, it's... do I want I Have Friends Everywhere... or One Way Out, and it's a real. The only reason I don't have the tattoo is I can't figure out which one I want yet.
Taryn, thank you so much for that super duper chat. Oh my gosh. Luthen's "You Were Always There" speech, the Force here, and Bix's belief in Cassian as something greater feels like an answer to fans about the Force's presence in Andor. Where else do you see the Force in Andor?
Oh. Well, okay, before we get into that, I do want to bring up the shot in the trailer that everyone thought was Deidre getting force choked was literally her
anxiety
responding to Cyril walking away from her.
Yeah.
Which is so fascinating. I love that everyone was like, does Darth Vader force... I know, it's literally her being like, her uniform is too tight because Cyril walks away.
Yeah. God, that's such a good question. Where else do you see the Force in Andor?
El Marby says Narkina 5 swim team tattoo. I have the Narkina 5 swim team shirt. Kino Loy swim school t-shirt from, was that Celebration London?
Yes.
Yeah, I have that t-shirt.
Yes.
Where do I see the Force? I see the Force in a lot of places.
I mean, there's, yeah.
I see it in... Cassian's ability to convince people feels almost Jedi-like. And it isn't the Force, but I do think that when the Force healer calls him the messenger, I understand that a lot of people are like, oh, it's because he got the Death Star plans out. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually not that. That's Jin's job. Jin is the messenger in that moment. I think that Cassian is the messenger of the rebellion in a lot of ways. I think that the concept of... I think the message that Cassian actually delivers to the universe isn't the Death Star plans. It is the thing that gets Jin to deliver the Death Star plans.
You caught your shirt.
What?
You caught your shirt.
I caught it?
It's like folded up.
Oh,
there you
can
go.
See my belly. The message that Cassian passes along is rebellions are built on hope. And you know, when we get to the finale, like I think about it so much in the context of the Gorman, the bellhop who says it to Cassian.
Yeah.
And Cassian says it to Jin, and Cassian passes along the hope of the rebellion to so many people and inspires them to be rebels.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people die because of it, right? Like Melchi dies in Rogue One. Everyone dies in Rogue One, but you know, Cassian inspires Melchi in ways that brings him along for the ride, and Melchi weirdly has become one of my favorite Glup Shittos now. And so I think that the Force almost acts through Cassian in his charisma.
Yeah, I mean, like Narkina, if he had not been able to convince Andy Serkis,
Kino, yeah,
he
cracked that nut.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah,
right.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, it is truly Cassian's ability to connect with people, which does feel like a part of the Force.
Which also comes back to Diego Luna. Like one of the like you need
this doesn't work with an uncharismatic person.
Yeah. You need someone who has like immediate chemistry with new characters. And one of the real challenges of season 2, in my opinion, is that because there's essentially 4 plot lines, 4 stories in 4 different places, the Cassian has to connect immediately with people.
Yeah.
And that's a really hard thing to do as an actor. Finding chemistry on a TV show is so difficult.
Yeah. And people are in and out.
He makes it so easy. Like he engages with people in a way that makes you think that he genuinely has chemistry with everyone on screen. And because of that, he's able to play this character whose role in the rebellion is intelligence officer, who also just happens to be the guy that welcomes you to the rebellion.
Yeah, and never ever follows orders.
He gets the line, "Welcome to the rebellion," to Mon Mothma, right? Yeah. Like he is that guy.
Yeah.
And Diego Luna is the center of that.
I do think that the Force is present in getting Mon Mothma out of that building.
Yeah.
There are so many things that can go wrong, right? Like it's really like, you know, in our world, I would call it, they got lucky, right? Yeah. I would say they were very lucky with how that all worked out. But I think that that partially was the Force. And and it also could just be luck, and it could be that everyone who is there is a professional at what they do, but if stuff goes wrong, even for someone who is trained for any situation that they might find themselves in.
Well, and just the luck of that door having been fixed recently. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that was also part of the rebels' plan or whatnot, but like the Force is the things that fall into place for goodness to succeed in a way.
Yeah.
And I do believe that, right? I think that there is a karmic balance to the universe. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in God. Like I don't believe in an afterlife, but I do believe that there are balances. That motion is perpetual. Mm-hmm. But that the law of the universe, right? Like force enacted upon an object is met in turn with force.
Yeah.
And sometimes those forces mean that a lot of good leads to bad, mm-hmm. right? But sometimes it means that a lot of bad leads to a lot of good. And I think that Cassian in a lot of ways is the force, because everything is the force in Star Wars, and that's the storytelling of it. But, yeah. Yeah. Felipe says it's something Marva touched on. She said he'd be an unstoppable force for good once he realized his potential, and boy was he ever.
Yeah.
Boy was he ever.
Yeah, he truly made all the difference in the world.
New York Slice says the show is impeccably cast. Clea was Elizabeth DeLoe first screen role.
Yeah, I know. Found that out after I was like, damn.
I have been acting for 25 years. And I don't have a performance as good as that. So
we can only aspire to be as good as...
Oh, I lost YouTube chat.
Oh, no. Taryn, thank you for that super chat. No such thing as luck. Well, and that's why I feel like it really comes back to the Force. And that's why, like, going back to your other message, that the Force healer moment I thought was so interesting. I was like, this show isn't really about the Force. Doesn't really need it. I don't really need... force choking or like hand wavy Jedi stuff, but just but what I do love about the Force, mm-hmm. and what I actually am very grateful that made it into the show is the connection.
Yeah.
Because that is partially the Force. It isn't just the Force though, but it is that connection between people, between that healer and Cassian, between Cassian and everybody else, among the rebels, right? Like, this show really lives or dies off of people being able to have empathy for one another and connect and work together. And we saw what happens when you don't have those things in the first arc of season 2, mm-hmm. which I know is an arc that not a lot of people liked, because
I don't think people disliked it.
I know it's not a lot of people's favorite.
Sure.
But I think that
it's hard for that to be a favorite considering how good the Gorman stuff is.
100%. But I do think that arc is so necessary, and it says so much about the other episodes. Rather than it being about those episodes itself, I think that arc just shows so much about the rebellion, and that's why it's there, and that's why it's important.
Well, and also like the growth of the rebellion over the course of season 2 is one of the things that's so fascinating about the growth of the rebellion is that it starts with these children bickering on a planet without leadership, mm-hmm. and it ends with leadership bickering on that same planet.
Yeah.
Right? Like the rebellion throughout the entirety of Andor is a story of people getting together on Yavin and bickering like little kids.
Yeah.
And I find that the parallels of that are those guys at the beginning, and then the room at the end when they're like, well, I don't know if we should, and Andor's like, I'm still on Yavin.
Yeah.
I'm still listening to people fucking talk out their asses.
Yeah.
I'm losing my fucking mind.
Well, and then we get to Rogue One, which we watched last night, right? And you had that moment of like, man, Mon Mothma is this close to just fucking throwing in the towel. Like, I have to fucking argue with these people again and again and again. And it's so true, right? It's there in that moment on that planet with these people.
Yeah.
And it really is about the way that they're able to connect to one another.
Taryn McKeege, thank you for that super chat. No such thing as luck. Yeah, that's why you should never tell me the odds. Never do it. Wildly Coyote, thank you for that super chat.
Thank
the
you.
Force was strong in the costume department.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
I also in the hair and makeup department. I understand that like they're professionals and matching the Rogue One look shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah.
But I've also seen Fant Four Stick where Kate Mara has such a wildly different wig for reshoots.
Oh my God.
That it's unbelievable that movie was released to the public.
Yeah.
And so this is such a small thing, but I was really
weird
impressed.
Superman mustache.
Yeah. I was really impressed with the way in which the look of the hair and costumes led into Rogue One so seamlessly at the end.
Yeah.
Like they really matched it perfectly, and they could have. It could have been fucked, and it wasn't, and I appreciate that. But the costumes throughout the whole season, I think Clea has some really cool costume stuff.
Clea, yeah, Mon Mothma, all the wedding stuff, right?
Oh god, the wedding scenes,
the sets and costumes and everything about. Oh my god, what's the planet called that they are on?
Which planet?
Mon Mothma's planet. I'm drawing a blank, even though I
wanted to say Corellia, but it's not Corellia. It's it's not Alderaan. Where the fuck Mon Mothma, the senator from? I know the answer. I'm gonna be so mad.
Oh my god, Chandrilla.
Oh, I
was like, I know it's a C. I know.
I'm so angry.
Yeah, Chandrilla was amazing. What was that? Oh, we stopped recording.
Anymore,
yeah, we ran out of disk space.
All right, we're still live. Whatever. The wedding scene is fucking incredible. But the scene before the wedding, the outdoor Chandrilla scene where Mon Mothma does the big parade down the stairs and around, and it's just it's in camera. It's not the volume. It's just this massive set. I was like, fuck, I missed this. And it is the thing. Like as much as I was gonna say as much as I love Ahsoka, I criticize Ahsoka a lot. I think there's a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Look, we've talked shit about Dave Filoni a little bit. I love Dave Filoni. I love him. His eulogizing Ray Stevens at Celebration was amazing.
Yeah.
But I also think that Dave Filoni struggles a little bit in live action filmmaking. I think that he's an incredible animator, and what he did in Clone Wars is amazing. I love those shows. I love Rebels. All of his live action direction to me has been a little bit flat.
Yep.
And I think that part of the reason for that is that he is trying to use the volume in a way that isn't working for me.
Yeah.
It just visually it's not hitting for me. I'm not, it just doesn't land.
Yeah.
And so I am hopeful that Andor convinces Star Wars to go back to not being on the volume. I understand it's easier to hide stuff from the audience, less the shit gets leaked. I get all of the reasons why you use it.
Yeah.
But watching Andor's practical sets and seeing real people interacting in real space, even with the CGI things, like the granny character from, and I think that was mostly puppet, but the fuck, man.
In the wheelchair, yeah.
Fuck, the practical sets were so beautiful.
They were so good. Chat wants to know if you heard about Perrin's deleted scenes.
I've heard there are deleted scenes. I don't know what any of them are, so.
So apparently, Perrin kind of knew everything, and that Mon Mothma
I have heard about this. Yes,
would have been able to trust him if they had ever spoken about it, if it had ever come up.
Yeah, I completely forgot about this. I did read about this yesterday. Yeah. The scene is that before she leaves Coruscant, Perrin reveals to Mon that he has been interrogated by ISB every week, and he's never said anything, even though he knows what she's up to, and that if she had trusted him, he would have helped. And it like breaks her heart before she leaves. I think that's a really cool idea that also like would not have improved the show for me.
Yeah. I don't think that it makes anything better. I understand why it's cut. You know, you gotta make sacrifices here and there. But yeah, in terms of that idea, man, it's again a beautiful tragedy, right?
Yeah. I think,
and instead we get the scene of him with his daughter's husband's mother. Drunk in his lap.
I loved that you caught who it was, because I had no fucking clue. I thought that woman was just some woman.
Yeah, Nerdy did not recognize the other mother-in-law.
Is like criminal. Like Davos is gonna fucking kill Perrin.
If he's a fucking alive,
gangster.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Although it seems like the Chandrillans have a very thorough culture in adultery. So
yeah, they're like the Japanese in that way.
Yeah, I don't know. They seem like they're fine.
Yeah. Dangerous Dax says, assuming Skulldun is still alive, it is a good question. If here's the thing, if Davos is alive or is dead, Mon is essentially dead to Perrin, right? There's nothing he can't go back to her. Yeah, he's not going to find Yavin.
She never sees her family ever again, right?
I think that there's like a legitimate thing in finding comfort in these two widows finding comfort in one another. So I actually, Davos being alive, it makes more sense that Perrin is with her. But if Davos is dead, it makes Davos being alive, like fucking your daughter's husband's mom. who's in a relationship with a man so dangerous that like he can hide shit from Palpatine is just crazy work.
But like I feel like it'd be so weird if he was dead and they're together. That would be like your parents who are also your in-laws are your having your parent also be your in-law. There's some weird, like if they got married anyways or were together, like that fucks up my brain. I don't like it.
I know you haven't met my Alabama family yet.
Yeah.
Mississippi family now, but that is legitimately something that.
Yes, we get it. Shut up. Sorry, it's our computer.
That is legitimately something that happens. That happened.
Cool.
To my family, so I am actually familiar with that feeling, and it's a thing.
Cool. I hate it.
Yeah.
We have gone over 2 hours.
No way. What? It's 6? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Is there any? Drop your most important questions now, so we can get to them before we end.
If you have any questions, we do actually have to go eat dinner, so we can't stream all night. So yeah, if there's anything that you guys wanted to touch on,
drop your most important questions right now.
Our Rogue One reaction will come out whenever our editor is able to get it to us. It might be Monday, it might be tomorrow, I don't know. We will let you know. And, well, you know what? No. Subscribe to the channel. If you want that video, you'll get a little notification bell if you turn those on for the upload. So, yeah, like this video, like this stream. Someone asked more Expedition 33.
I'm hoping to stream Monday.
Okay.
What?
We might be doing a lot of tax stuff on Monday, but like maybe Monday or Tuesday.
Maybe Tuesday. I don't know.
Yeah.
I will definitely. I'll be streaming at least twice a week moving forward.
Yeah.
Until I beat that game.
Yeah. Really likes it. So.
The problem with the tech stuff is we have to wait to hear back from.
I know.
So then, Wildly Coyote says any sympathy for Cyril's mom? Yeah, Cyril's mom like loses her son in the most awful way possible.
Yeah, she's not a good person, but also like nobody deserves to have their son killed. Like that's. Yeah.
She's also not really a bad person though. She's like a lot, but she's not like. She doesn't hurt anybody.
She's manipulative
difficult.
and she doesn't respect privacy. She has absolutely no regard for Cyril as an individual.
Sure,
like, she's not a good person.
I'm not saying that she's not overbearing. Yeah. She is.
She's not evil.
But I can have sympathy for overbearing people.
Yeah.
Even if I wouldn't want them to be.
Yeah.
Like, look, would I want her in my life? No, but I can have sympathy.
That's what I mean. Like, she didn't deserve this, but so she has my sympathy. But your season 2 GOAT. I mean, I think in terms of the rebellion, it's Lonnie. But it's really tough because there's so many incredible pieces to this puzzle and performances.
I mean, no, for me, it's Lonnie. Everything he goes through. Lonnie's the one that sticks with me the most. I think about him a lot and what he must have gone through inside the Empire to stay in that position. Yeah, the show doesn't really get into the awful things he did.
Yeah. And there was a point where he almost leaves, right? Because he can't handle it anymore.
That was 4 years before, yeah.
Yeah. Ilshawam says, do you think Ahsoka, in her capacity as military coordinator, ever crossed paths with Andor or Luthen?
Not Luthen, but with Andor,
no,
yeah.
I was going to say Andor,
she definitely
maybe,
crossed paths with Andor, but she wouldn't have crossed
probably
paths
with Probably not Luthen. I can't say that.
Because Luthen never goes to Yavin.
Mm-hmm. Do you think we'll see Andor's child in future Star Wars media?
No. I think they'll stay away from it.
Really? I have a feeling that we will because they're really bad at moderating themselves.
I think that Star Wars is going to mostly avoid the 30 years between the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy from now on. So I think that
maybe they learned their lesson with the whole Rey Skywalker thing.
Like if we see Andor's kid, I don't think there's going to be a lot of storytelling in that 30-year period. And so you know what I think? Because it's so complicated. I think that if we see him, he'll be like 50. Like,
you know, and I think
or her.
I think that what would be more interesting to me and more satisfying to me is that their child does not show up as a main character of anything, doesn't really show up to influence something, but is like a bartender that they meet or someone who like has a decent, normal job that like helps people, and that's it. Like we don't really find out anything about them except maybe they mention a name in passing where we're like, oh, that could possibly be Bix and Andor's kid. I don't think we'll get an actual like main story about them.
I don't think they'll ever touch it. I just think they'll leave it alone. I think that I think the power of like Cassian dying for that kid's future is so strong that we don't need to find out what that future was. And I don't know. I think Star Wars will stay away from it. I don't think Star Wars will ever touch Bix again. I think they'll leave the audience with she was happy.
Yeah. There, Marvel Star Wars Geek, there's not a rumor that the child is Poe Dameron. That's someone who made a graphic on Twitter.
Well, there were assumptions, but the problem that even before because there was the assumption that back when Rogue One was coming out, there was the assumption that both Rey and Jyn, or no, that Rey was Jyn and Cassian's kid, and that Jyn was going to survive. This was before the movie came out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They've been talking about that forever, but the problem with that is Poe Dameron's parents are in canon. Yeah. So we know who they are. They're in the comics. Yeah. And so I don't think they would retcon Poe Dameron's backstory.
No,
Poe Dameron is already like alive at this point. So yeah.
I do love that someone said for your tattoo you should get calibrate your enthusiasm.
Calibrate your enthusiasm was pretty good.
That was a banger line.
Gilroy said it's Disney's baby now. Yeah, I just think Disney... Yeah. I don't know what Disney could get out of smushing Andor's kid into the sequel trilogy. I think Disney mostly thinks the sequel trilogy is a dud, and there's not a lot of value in diving into it. Yeah,
I think it's too hot. It's too hot. Leave it alone. Do something else. You have a vast universe that you can create stuff in.
Might get a book. There might be a Bix book that comes out.
Have more Cal Kestis.
Yeah, well, because like we're getting, Maul is still pre-original trilogy.
Yeah, we're getting Maul. We're getting the movie with Ryan.
But that's post episode 9.
Which one of the Gosling? Ryans? That's one. Yeah.
So yeah, no, I don't think that they're going to touch this era very much anymore. I don't think there's a lot of value in it.
It gets too tangly. You gotta let it go sometime.
Hush says, did you recognize Melshi when he turned up? I spent 2 episodes going, should I know this glove shadow? I did. I remember him. I remembered him from Rogue One, but.
Oh, when he's like, "That's my gun."
No,
yeah.
in
Oh, at Narkina.
Oh, I did remember him.
Narkina? No, I did not.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, because I think I only watched Rogue One once before we watched it again last night. Which is a tragedy. No, actually no. I think I might have watched it twice. But both of those viewings were pretty close together. So it had been a while between watching Rogue One and Andor season 1.
A couple of people said they changed K2's backstory. K2's backstory didn't really change though. I mean, it did, but they
said it's propaganda.
Yeah, they've changed it so that because he meets K2 on Gorman, and they want the official story to not be that Cassian was on Gorman. The comic is a propaganda story. That's a bit different than being like Poe Dameron had different parents.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it would be a bigger retcon than like one mission that Kay and Cassian met on is I don't know. I don't think they could pull that off.
Yeah.
I also think that like Poe Dameron's a character that changing his backstory to be Cassian Andor's kid doesn't change Poe Dameron at all.
No, it's just having it connected for the sake of being connected, and
yeah, and
I'm good.
That would only have value at the end of Andor. Like the value of doing that after this wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Unless Bix were to show up in like episode 10 or whatever, but
yeah, y'all. Thank you so much for a wonderful live stream. Yeah. This was a lot of fun.
It always is. We love talking to you. And
yeah. I never know where these are gonna go.
Yeah, sorry, this got a little bit more political than usual, but it's hard. It's hard not to talk about. Yeah, the way it connects to real life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, but no, this was fantastic. Thank you for being here. Like the video. Mm-hmm. Make sure you stick around to the channel because our Rogue One re-reaction is going to drop, and Nerdy's going to be streaming more, and
yeah, you're going to be streaming more.
I would like to be streaming more, maybe over the summer, maybe for my 6-year anniversary, I'll make a comeback.
I mean, it's just going to be when you're feeling it.
No, it's going to be when I have time. I am most certainly feeling it.
All right. Well, let's make time. It's going to be easier because we're not traveling as much.
Yeah,
getting
once we
ready
get back
for Japan
from our
and
cabin trip,
Well, we shouldn't have done those. Like doing those in back-to-back weeks was, it doesn't matter. Thank you so much. We adore you all. If you want, who's the algorithm goddess for this? Like, subscribe, hit the dislike button, leave me comments down below because the algorithm goddess is
Deidre.
She
might come back. You never know.
Ooh.
Who knows?
It's just a whole book of her suffering in prison.
God. Woof.
If you want to follow us on the internet, you can. I'm at nerdynightly.
I'm at Claris Polaris.
May the force be with you. Always.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, where's the mouse?
I don't know.